Right, I think I've worked out how to make your little button, at least the special profile. I'll let you worry about the hinge and the knob. But let's start with a new document in FreeCAD. Unlike what we've been doing in the past, where we've been using the part design workbench initially, we will get back to that. We'll actually use the part workbench. So we select the part workbench, and what we'll first want to do is we want to take the profile, the oval shape that that we've seen now from the top. So we'll start with on the XY plane, which is the top-down view. It's a little bit different to the part design, the way that it chooses things. It doesn't have, you can't pick it, but it ends up looking similar. So in order to do this, you could just do some sort of oval or whatever, but I found by running a few tests that the best way to do this is actually with a couple of arcs. So we'll go with this arc, create by center. We'll do the left one. So we'll make the center point. So this is an arc by center. Make the center point on the horizontal axis, and then we'll sort of make it go from about there to about there. We'll do the same on the other side. Create one sort of like that. Then we'll do the same again, this time one going from that point to that point, but you can see it looks a bit odd, so let's move some of this stuff in so that we're actually going to end up, we'll make these tangential so that they blend. Make this one and this one also tangential. We'll move this one down here, so it looks a bit like a circle at the moment, but the where's the center of these arcs shouldn't be in the middle. If I grab that, I have to start again. Got this arc. That's why. I'll start again. We'll do the first arc. I accidentally clicked on the center of that. I want that one to have a fairly flat arc, so it'll go from there to there. Arbitrary point down here somewhere. And similarly, we'll do one not on the center, but on this line. Go from there to say there. This one, whoop, center point around, right. And then I'll do another arc, whoops, unselected it, choose the center on this side this time, go from this point to that point. Okay, now we'll make the center points, the horizontal ones, equidistant from there. We'll make these two center points equidistant from the middle point also. Yep. There. We'll make them tangential. I think by doing that, it will become, yep, okay. Now, what we want to do is we want these points to be equidistant across that line. So we can do that there also. So now, if we grab one of those, it'll shift everything accordingly. And if we make these, if we change this to make this radius bigger, what happens? Okay, eventually it looks a bit like a circle as they approach the middle. Okay. All right. Oh, that's looking a bit odd. I think we may need to make these right. There, it's a bit smoother now. So we can change that to be the sort of shape you want. That should be on that line there. So that we're just up and down. Okay, let's say we're about something that looks a bit like that sort of shape. I think that's similar to what your button looks like, but anyway, you can make that whatever you want. Right, so we'll close that. In the part workbench, the extrude is this button here. So unfortunately, this only goes sort of one direction. So we'll just make it, I know we only want to make this about 1 millimeter high ultimately, but let's go with about 20 mil extrusion. You'll see why later. I mean, I didn't dimension any of this. You can dimension the size of this later on. But so that's our basic shape that we're going to cut your button out of. So what we want to do now is we look on the front. We want to create the shape in the middle. So it's a bit of a sort of a sine curve or something similar. I did originally use, I'll just go with a sketch, and in the ZX, I think the XZ, yes, the XZ plane here, we'll just click on this view the section, and just to make things a little bit easier to see again, click on model, go to the extrusion, go to view down the bottom left, and adjust the transparency to about 50. And then what that does just means you can see through it. So we'll just go back to the sketch view here. This is to align the sketch to the section. The section's already selected. Now, what we want to do is we want to create that shape internally. We won't worry about trying to make it in the middle here. You'll see why. We'll just use this axis. And I did use the spline. It gives you a nicer curve, but it caused a little bit of a problem later on. So we'll just use arcs. And I'll use arcs by 3 points. Well, actually, firstly, we'll select, using the external geometry, we'll select that, we'll select down there so that we can use the end point. Now, what else do I want to do? Right, so now what I'm going to do, well, actually I don't end up using that. We'll do the arc by 3 points. We'll just go some distance to the left, but on this line. And then we'll go and choose the center point, and then whatever the sort of shape might look like, internal. Now the reason we have to do this is just because of the way it cuts it later. If they're perfectly aligned, it can be a little bit problematic. But what we can do is we can just give it a dimension of 0.1 millimeters, just to give it slightly bigger, but not much. So then we'll do the same on the other side. We will do an arc from somewhere here into the middle and just down there somewhere. We'll make these, click on both of the arcs and make them equal, so that basically makes the radius the same. We will also click them both again and make them tangent so that they are a smooth transition between the two. And what that does is it will actually and we can demonstrate this by going and dimensioning here. If you do a dimension here, it's 0.1. I'm not going to bother clicking on it. It just, because of the other constraints, you see it's gone orange now because it's going to say it's over constrained if we were to set a dimension, but I'll escape out of that. Right, so it's still under constrained because we don't actually have a radius. We can adjust the shape, which you can do later based on how thick your button is, but just for the purposes of demonstration, you can see that sort of a shape within the confines of that overall object we extruded before. Right, so we'll close that sketch. Right, now that's a sketch in the sectional view, but because the edge of your button is all flat all the way around, and between this point in the curve and this edge, they all end up, if you were to do a section through there, you get a dip down and you get a hump here, then it still comes to be flat here. So we want to now draw another 2 more sketches to loft between that are on the outside at that level. So in order to do that, what we'll do is just do another sketch, but this time we'll do it in the XY plane, which is already, so the top-down view. So we'll draw one sort of just outside that 0.1 millimeters again, but matching exactly with the same shape that exists. So what we'll do is we'll get the geometry, external geometry of the object, and then we will draw, I'll get the external geometry of all 3 parts so that we pick up the center points of each of those arcs that make up. We don't have to worry about the bottom one. You'll see why, because I'll mirror it. And so we'll get out of that tool. We'll create arcs, but this time we'll do arcs by, actually there's another bit of geometry we need to pick up. Remember that 0.1 we had here? Actually, we don't need that. We'll draw an arc by 3 points. We'll go just something like, actually because we're going to use the center, we'll use an arc by center. We'll pick that center point. We'll come out here somewhere. Don't go on the line. There's a reason for that. It causes a bit of an issue. We'll go some point up like this, and we'll go, I don't know, about here. So we're not actually in line with anything. What we'll then do is we'll choose a construction line. So we'll go from the center point here, and we'll go up to this point of that arc, so that this point ends in line with this. We'll now click on that construction line, we'll click on that point, and we'll make them coincident. So now it moves that to be directly in line on a radial. Now this one, we can bring it down a little bit closer, doesn't, just reasonably close. I think we could use the same sort of dimensional constraints. We say this is a millimeter, 0.1 of a millimeter, say, off that line. What we'll also say is it's 0.1 of a millimeter off there. Right. Just to keep it, you can see the other one we did before, but it's a fairly small dimension. And then so we've got a fully constrained arc just outside those original dimensions. Now we'll do the same thing on the other side. We've still got this construction geometry set, so we can just draw that. We know we're going to use it. We'll do that. We'll get out of construction geometry. We will arc by center by clicking there. We'll go on that and we'll stop, something like that. Rather than using the dimensions here on this side as well, what we'll say is we'll say that point, and this point are horizontally the same. So there's a constraint. So that moves it down. It won't be quite on it. It'll be 0.1 if you were to measure it, 0.1 millimeters. And now we can also, now that we've constrained that to be that high, we can say that this one and this one are equidistant from that line. So now you'll see it's that same distance away. So you only have to worry about then dimensioning this side. Right, got a bit of a problem here though. This side has moved up. We need to now constrain that blue line. Well, we could do it the same as the other side actually. We could just constrain horizontally, but I've already done the construction line. So we'll put the construction line to coincide with that point. So the coincident, there we are. Now we need another line, another sketch line to go, an arc to go around there. Well, we'll use, again, the arc by center. This time we'll choose this center point down here, which is the center of the arc of the external geometry we brought in. And we'll just go from that green point, so this one here, and we'll go around to this green point there. And I don't know why it's not fully constrained, but because it didn't click, that's why. I'll make it coincident. This side, I obviously didn't click on it properly. Coincident, and then that didn't click either. Make them coincident, and now it's green. Righto. So now we have that sketch. If we just hide these, there's that sketch we just drew. Now, what I want to do is I want to create another sketch that's identical to that, but mirrored. So we'll select it. We'll go into the Sketcher workbench. So we'll go Sketcher workbench, go Sketch. We'll do Mirror Sketch, and we'll mirror it. You can see down here along the x-axis. So there we go, x-axis, there it is. So remember how the points here weren't right on the line. If we zoom in now, we'll just look down from the top. Where am I? Look down from the top. There it is. You can see that one sketch, and you go right in here, they don't join, but that's okay, because in fact they should all be like this, because when you loft, you want to loft from this point to this point to this point, which is why I'm using the arcs. This arc, this will actually go from this point to the center of that arc and then back out when it lofts. So we could have done two arcs, one to match this one perfectly. You'll see that there'll be a line as it tries to work it out. So what we want to create is that loft now. We'll go back into the Part workbench, because that's where you can create the loft. What you do is you go to this one here, which is, if you hover over, it says loft. And what we want to go is from this one to this one to this one. So that's going from the mirrored sketch, it's gone green. Shift that across by clicking this button to shift it into this. Then the next one we loft to is the middle one, which is the original sketch. Don't know why it's not going green, but we'll shift that across. And then, no, the original sketch is not it, is it? That's the, it's sketch 1. There it is, sketch 1. There we go. And then sketch 2, which was what we did. Sketch is the original one we extruded from. So, right. So we've got it going from the bottom one to the middle one to the top one. don't click any of these, just click OK. Now what you'll see when you look at it, that's your shape, basically. But this is just a piece of flat plate, essentially, because this doesn't produce a solid. It's just going to use this to cut this original extrusion. But remember, but it has to intersect this extrusion. It doesn't at this end. So what we'll do, because we didn't draw it from the midpoint up here, but that's okay. We'll click on the loft just once. We'll go to the left-hand side down the bottom. Click on, make sure it's the data is selected. We'll go to placement. We'll go position. We'll go Z. Click on Z. You can scroll or type or up and down arrows. And just because we made it 20 mil thick, just go to the middle by put it at 10. There it is. And just click somewhere. So now you can see that loft is in the middle, and the loft actually comes outside the extrusion, so that making sure that it's going to completely cut it. I tried this previously with those sketches matching exactly the outside of the extrusion, but the calculations must have been different by a very small amount where it didn't cut it properly, which is why I've come out to be on the edge just by a fraction. So now we've got an extrusion and we've got a loft. We want to now click on extrude, then with you holding the control button down, then clicking the loft, because that's the thing you're going to use to cut with. Go to part, go to split, and go to slice apart. Click on that. Right. Now, all that sort of disappeared. It's sort of been wrapped up into two slices, the bottom slice and the top slice. Now, the problem is it's still no thickness. There's two completely independent parts. So if you were to hide one, you would see it's got a divot and a bump. And if you did it the other way around, it's just the opposite. There's a bump and a divot. So now we want to make something a certain thickness. So if we just show both of them. Now we select the bottom one. You could do the top one, but select the bottom one, right click and do transform. And it brings up this little widget. So what you want to do is then grab this blue arrow. Well, you can see here it says the translation increment 1 millimeter. Because you probably want to make this 2 mil thick or something like that, it's easy to leave it at 1. But if you wanted to make it only 0.5 mil thick, then you could change this to 0.5 mil, this translation increment, because all you do is you grab it. When you pull it, the first step is 1 millimeter, second step is 2 millimeters. So now you'll see you've moved the bottom one up by 2 millimeters, so they overlap. And okay. So now that you've got those two solids overlapping, the two slices, click on both of them by clicking on slice 0, then control, click on slice 1, go to part again, go to Boolean, and then the intersection. What this does is we'll only leave the bits that are intersecting as the final product. So, I mean, you could do cut, or the Boolean operations are good for additive or taking things away. But in this particular case, we just want to keep the pieces that overlap, so the intersection. There it is. So there is the bit that you want. Now, that's all very well and good, but that's not a body that you're used to using. So how do you now go back into part design and do your other things with it? What you do is you leave it like that. You now go to the part design workbench. Don't create a body yet. Go into model, select common. You could change the name of it, whatever. You could change any of the names of this. But so you've got the green body there by selecting the common. And with that selected, you then go and click on create. So the normal create a body. And what it does is it creates a body using what you'd already selected. So now you've got this base feature. Now you can just work with that as an ordinary body. You can do things. You can do, now this body is selected. You could hide the original. Now this body, you could go and put the hinge in somehow. Let's say you wanted to extrude the hinge in the middle. You could do a sketch. Let's go and do a sketch in this plane. You could then go and draw a rectangle, something like this. Oop, there, you can't see it because I'll do the sectional view. There we go. If I just make that, whoops, start again. There, 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 and I'll make that like that. I'll go close. Now, because where we had it before, this is now floating above that XY plane, which is okay. It actually probably turns out better that way. But if you wanted to work on the top side, the same thing that we did before, so you click on sketch, when we shifted the loft up, you can now go into, with the sketch selected, you can go into the data tab. So you're not editing the sketch, you're just outside the editing. You just click on sketch and you go up to this placement again, the position, the Z, and you can into the Z, and I don't know why it's not. Say, let's put it at 15. No. There. I'll just go back around again. So you could go. It's being a bit problematic. I don't know why. Sketch, placement. Axis and placement in there. Oh, it's not doing what it should be doing, but the alternative would be, well, we'll come up with a way of doing that later, but we can now choose that and we can use the pad, and we can pad up to face, and there it is, it's padded up to the face. So now you can use that to build the rest of your hinge off. So yeah, that's, I guess, up to you how to continue with that, but at least you can do the funny shape, which I think is pretty good. Yeah, so I'll stop there.